Welcome to a podcast of fantasy and romance, or as we like to lovingly call ourselves, Apifar. We're your hosts, Ashley,
and Anna.
Explore epic tales of fantasy and romance in your favorite books. We will bring you a wide range of book club books by highlighting indie authors, authors that aren't big household names yet, and yes, covering your favorite big releases. We will discuss the worlds, characters, stakes, and relationships that they created while adding our breakdown and theories as well. At the end, we'll face off in our war games and bring you along. A couple of housekeeping things before we dive in.
First, this is the spoiler warning. This episode will contain spoilers for all of Phantasma. If you haven't finished the book yet, this is where you should push pause, go finish the book, and then come back and listen. I'll wait. Okay, I'm not waiting. But we will have a separate spoiler warning before our war game segment at the end of the episode. We hate spoilers here at Apifar.
Second, this podcast has an explicit rating. We will be discussing mature themes and we cuss a little. So if you're not ready for your kids to go to school and talk about put your hands on the headboard or how many spicy things can happen on a throne, then this would be a good time to pop on some headphones. Here we go. Apifar Book Club is now in session.
First, we're going to start with me giving you a detailed summary of what happens in Phantasma, which I'm going to call chapter chats. I am a little chatty, so it might be a little long, but stick with me. Our book starts out, Phantasma. We don't even get the opportunity to stick our toe in the water as we're pushed into drama within the first sentence. Our FMC, Ophelia, and her sister Genevieve had found their mother dead in their home. Ophelia acts on instinct and starts to perform a spell to take her mother's totally normal, not important, heart-shaped necklace that has been passed down from generation to generation. The spell she performs will allow Ophelia to inherit the ancestry magic given to the women in their family, become necromancers.
I did have a definition of necromancy just because I usually think of it as bad guy in the story. It's not. That's one of the things she talks about in this one is how she doesn't want necromancy to just be thought about as that, but also helping the dead or helping people with their loved ones. So necromancy is the practice of summoning and communicating with the spirits of the dead, often to gain knowledge, power, or to reanimate the dead.
See, the part that gets me is the animated the dead. I don't know how I feel about that.
That's the only part that I ever really associated with necromancy, and it was always you shouldn't reanimate the dead because if you do, then they're just going to be wisps of themselves and not total people or whatever. So I kind of appreciated that she kind of drew this whole other thing into it where necromancy could actually be helping people communicate with their loved ones and kind of get some closure.
Yeah, I like it too. And their family have been doing it for generations, so I guess it's a thing that is needed or liked in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Ophelia is about to inherit this ancestry magic by performing the spell over basically her dead mother's body, which is a little creepy. But she spent her childhood learning how to perform this magic and spent her time studying the supernatural world in preparation of being the next in line. This isn't the only thing she has been focusing on in her life. Ophelia struggles to hold back a shadow voice. That's what she calls it, a shadow voice, that lives in her mind and taunts her to perform a task, or what she calls a ritual in her words. When she does that, she's preventing bad things from happening to her or her loved ones, or she thinks she is. She's had a lot on her plate because of all this. Meanwhile, you have Genevieve over here, the younger sister, that has not had as much pressure on her. She's been able to get out and make friends and have something of a more natural childhood. After their mother's death, it's come out that there's been some financial issues that Genevieve and her mother, Tessa, never told Ophelia about, which, sad. More secrets come out, and this leads to drama between the two girls going their separate ways for the evening. On the way home, Ophelia literally stumbles into an old cemetery and starts talking to a voice in the fog, which is a totally rational thing to do, sure. She's unable to see the stranger, but can feel him. Cue the banter and goosebumps because this girl is already intrigued by this mysterious stranger that calls her Angel, which I really like. She offers to help out the spirit and tells her that he needs to have a heart and a key to be set free before things can go along and she could figure out how to save him.
Okay, before we leave our meet cute, is that he's like asking her what she's doing and said that she thought she heard a ghost, and then he goes, boo. I just really loved that.
Well,
It
yeah.
made me laugh. I did like that she could just feel him even though she couldn't see him. And then we obviously knew the heart and the key was going to come back into play when he said that.
Obvious. I already knew. Like, her
Well,
locket's a heart, guys.
okay, please don't laugh at me, but it took me a lot longer to realize that it was her locket. I think like halfway through the book, I was like, oh, it's her locket.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, just
I clocked that first thing.
well, I figured it was gonna be a thing that she would help him find and not an actual person's heart like she originally assumed. But for some reason, I did not put it together until they were looking for the heart that he needed, and she touched her heart necklace, and I was like, oh, there's the heart. Anyway, so yeah, it
Yeah.
just took me a lot longer.
Well, if we're going to interject and say how we like this meet cute, I like how he says angel. I like the boo part. That was really
Boo.
cute. But I like how, like, she's describing him touching, like, her face, you know, like her neck and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, she gets goosebumps, and I really like that.
Yeah.
After that beautiful meet cute, she hightails it out of there because she realizes she's standing on Phantasma grounds, which, let me tell you what Phantasma is. First off, it's the title of the book, so probably important. But it's a magical pop-up circus, is kind of what I'm thinking about it being. It has no rhyme or reason of where it shows up. It just suddenly, randomly appears in the middle of the night. But instead of being run by really cute clowns, which, if you talk to my husband, no clown is cute, but it's run by a nefarious group of demons. The main purpose of these 9-ring shit show is that they challenge humans to enter a competition of life and death, with the last victor obtaining the reward of a favor or wish from a demon. Other competitors that decide to leave the games or to be saved in the game sell their soul to the devil. Cue the fiddles. The games are themed on the 9 levels of hell, which, with each round depicting a respective sin, which we'll get through as we continue. Ophelia wakes up the next morning and cannot find her sister, and deduces from clippings from the entry of her diary, which I'm not mad at her, because her sister disappeared. I don't quite understand why Genevieve later in the book is so upset about this. Like, you literally disappeared.
Yes.
I'm gonna look
Yeah.
for clues on where you
Well,
went.
see, but to Genevieve, she was just like, well, I was just going to Phantasma, like, no big deal. I was going to be back. Whereas Ophelia's like,
No big deal.
my sister is missing, and she just went into her death sentence. Like, I've got to go save her. So
Yeah.
I don't blame her for looking in the diary. I do understand why Genevieve is upset, but all things considered, I don't know what else she wanted her to do.
So not only does she figure out that Genevieve, her sister, has entered into Phantasma, probably to go save their home by obtaining money from the devil, but she's also looking for a man named Gabriel. So naturally, Ophelia enters Phantasma, where she learns that the price to enter is steep. A demon gets to rummage through her memories like some sort of squishy Rolodex and handpick one of the worst fears to use against you in Phantasma. Ophelia is given a rue and told that she isn't able to search for her sister until completing level 7, because that would be too easy and the book would be ending right now. She won't get bored, however, because there are haunts that have their own torture regimen for each of the contestants. So between that and finding the secret doors and meeting a ghost cat named Poe, she continues to have her hands full. As she's wandering around being chased by nightmares, our NMC appears behind her. Same guy from the graveyard, just so you know. He is described to have gleaming white hair with dazzling green eyes while looking sharp in his green and black wardrobe. I don't know what you picture when this was described, but I immediately picture Draco Malfoy. That's depicted through all of the Dramamine fan fiction. Like, literally, that's who this man is.
Oh.
He's got swagger.
I've not read any Hermione fan fiction, so that is not who I pictured at all.
Who did you picture? No one? Just
Uh,
tall,
I just
handsome, blonde man?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be real honest and say that My mind just totally pictured him with dark hair. I don't know if that's just because that's what I
That's because
want.
that's what all the stories.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, but I feel like you got upset before that there's so many main characters, or maybe it was female main characters, that were not blonde. Like they were all tall, dark, and handsome. So I thought you'd be really excited.
No, that's all the main male characters. And a lot of our stories have dark hair. It's like the joke is that if you see someone with blonde hair, you're like, "Huh, that's not the real MMC." So I
Right?
do appreciate that it's different, but my brain just went like straight to black.
He's got the titanium locks. He's got the fit that would make Lucius Malfoy trip over his cane. My boy is looking freaking fresh as hell. We eventually learn that this man is named Blackwell, and it's said that he is a phantom. Though she is basically drooling, he doesn't seem to remember meeting her in the graveyard last night. So, though she might have a voice running around in her head, our dude's got some amnesia going on. The next morning, she crashes through the floor into the dining room in front of this man again that she's been daydreaming about in the bathtub the night before, and Blackwell offers her a bargain. He would help her while she's here through the task and with the haunts in the meantime, but only if she finds something for him. It would cost her a decade of her lifespan, and she's like, hell nah. My mama taught me better than that. So we get the trials now. So trial 1 is Limbo, and it's a maze. Again, Draco Malfoy. So my mind is already on Harry Potter. So it's giving Goblet of Fire vibes with the whole walls are trying to crush you and such. But apparently the only sense you have in this version is sight. And even though you have the sight, it's fading as time goes on while you're doing this trial. In the center is a hellhound guarding the exit. And before she's able to leave this circle of hell, Cade, the dickhead, enters slinging his narcissistic ego around. He wakes the beast and mayhem ensues and freaking people die, which I knew they were going to, but come on, man. Eventually, Ophelia makes it out. And when she gets out, she confronts Cade because he's a piece of snot. And they confront each other, and he grabs her arm and also escalates the fight to a knife fight. Like, what the fuck, Cade? She learns that she could actually become transparent and slip away from him. This is the first time she's ever done this. Blackwell enters, and a giant snake appears and bites her. Again, basilisk. And lastly, she is then almost possessed by a poltergeist that is posing as her sister. She's had a rough afternoon. Blackwell gets her to safely and says that she's going to be trouble, and honestly, I can see it. This girl finds some shit. Ophelia agrees that the blood bargain and the hunt for the heart and key begins, and will continue on and off through the book. Trial 2. We are in Lustland, and I kind of think this is my favorite trial.
That's funny.
Blackwell tells her to say his name 3 times and to summon him. She arrives in the room, which is basically turned into a whorehouse. Cue Kevin Hart. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. The trial is she has to choose a type of lust based on the color drink she chooses from the tray. You have red for bloodlust, green, blue, pink, and gold. Now, do you have any opinions or ideas what the other lusts are?
Okay, bloodlust, sexual lust. I mean, you could lust after a lot of things. You could lust after money.
And that's what I thought green would be. Would be like,
oh yeah, like
lust after money.
Yeah.
But I guess gold could be too, like if you're like riches.
True.
I thought like power could be something.
I bet that's definitely one. I'm not sure about the rest though. You got others?
I don't know.
I did not consider it for very long. I did think about it though.
Listen, I went down a rabbit hole on the internet and I still couldn't decide.
Well, that's
I was
something.
like, wow, you could really lust over a bunch of shit. I have no idea, but if anyone is listening and they have their own theories, please let me know.
Yes.
Because I'm very curious.
Yes.
So the drink that she chooses is red, which is bloodlust. And the drink also is a drug that ends up clouding her mind. And she has to overcome her lust for the person she's most tempted to have fun time with and the bloodlust that's surrounding her, which is basically a vampire's wet dream. Because it's just everywhere. It's what I'm picturing. Like these people are just slashing people open and drinking their blood, and it's crazy. And I'm now realizing it's kind of weird that I said this was my favorite trial.
Hey, listen, I don't think you're alone, so this will be relatable.
It's not because of the blood, but, to each their own. She has to overcome her lust and all this illusion and find a secret door underneath one of the beds in this room. The person that she is tempted with is, of course, Blackwell. We could have picked that out of a needle in a haystack. After saying his name 3 times, our fella shows up and he is happily surprised that she wants him. Unfortunately for her, it strokes his ego a bit, which she struggles with the rest of the book. They make it out of there and Blackwell teases her some more, saying how much better he could have done than that poor imitation that they were presenting of him. She gets to experience his work soon enough when her clothes have to be ripped off to prevent her from getting hurt from the acid on their Indiana Jones adventure behind the bookshelves. After the drama and finding a clue pointing to Gabriel, Blackwell asks her about the shadow voice, as it has prompted her to knock on the headboard and says who she wants to keep safe. The next day brings about the magic practice montage before the next level of hell. Okay, trial 3 is greed. She has to hang above a freaking lake of lava in a golden cage and climb to the top of a cliff. That's basically the task. As she's climbing, there are weights that she digs out of this
I
cliff
think so.
and basically puts on a chain and it kind of propels her up. Every time she puts a weight on her chain, she goes up, but other contestants will go down, which upsets her because she ends up killing somebody. And Blackwell kind of works her through it.
And I thought it was really sweet. Oh, she's like, it's going to hurt my hands. And he is obviously really crushed that she has to hurt her hands to climb up the rest of the way. And he can't help her.
I know. He already cares for her.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
Once they get out, in a less cute way, they go feral for each other. Sex galore. Well, yeah, sexual things happen, at least. And once things have cooled down a little, Ophelia meets the demon Sinclair, who is Blackwell's nemesis. Sinclair tells her that Blackwell hasn't been totally honest with her and what he has found in the book of contestants that they've been looking through for Gabriel. She confronts Blackwell and learns that he knows Gabriel, that Gabriel and her mother, Tessie, were contestants back in the day who fell in love during Phantasma and they were cursed for it. Not only that, but Blackwell was the sponsor, protector of Gabriel last time Phantasma was being played 3 days ago. Something like that. Gabriel also, shocker, is her father and had to re-enter the games just last week or a week or two and apparently has been a specter, which is where she gets her power to turn invisible from. Trial 4. This level involves making it across the chessboard-looking floor without being cut in half by swinging pendulums of death. On the other side of the board are 2 levers for each contestant. Flip the one with the check, and you gain an advantage in the future round. Flip the one with an X and a disadvantage. You flip both, it cancels out each other. Cade, being the piece of slime that he is, chose Ophelia to get her disadvantage first, which is rude. First off, he's got a problem. Really got a problem. So each lever pulled will also cause another obstacle to the puzzle for all the contestants. As Ophelia and all of them are making across, she is attacked by one of the contestants in this round and has to set a trap for him to become a beef kebab to save herself, basically. After another round of near-death experiences, Ophelia and Blackwell get together again, but she starts to realize that she is falling for him, and they say chivalry is dead. Trial 5, Wrath. It's about to start, but Ophelia has been tricked into dancing for what could have been an eternity if it wasn't for Blackwell finding her and breaking the illusion and spell that Sinclair put on her. The only good thing about this is that she had learned some things from Sinclair. She has learned the name of the Prince of the Devils, who is in charge of Phantasma. Salem has been forced into Phantasma for betraying his father and siding with his lover, dragging along Sinclair since he helped hide the couple. Salem's love has been murdered 5 centuries ago. But Blackwell saves her from this hallucination that she's having.
Okay.
And she makes it to the trial.
When Sinclair told her the story of Salamastris, I immediately was like, oh, that's Blackwell. Is that also what you thought?
Yes.
Well, at least I didn't take a long
I'm
time getting to that one.
She was running late because of Sinclair being a dick. And she just makes it to the new trial last second. She ends up in a room with the contestants and a spot to move forward for everyone but one person because they stand on pedestals. There's pedestals for everyone but one person. So someone's not going to be making it out of there alive, or something else is going to happen. So Kate decides that he's going to kill someone to make sure he can continue on. He starts choking the life out of this poor girl, and no one comes to her rescue except for Ophelia eventually does. Ophelia distracts Cade by turning invisible, and the girl is let go and allowed to breathe. She immediately forfeits, which I would do too, and the trial is over because they got their one person to leave. Ophelia gets back to her room and has a heart-to-heart with Blackwell. They apologize to each other and they end up coming together again. It must be a sharing kind of day because not only does that happen, but not long after that, Ophelia ends up having a heart-to-heart with her mother on the other side through the Whispering Gate. Trial 6 is Deceit, and the trial that this episode's war game is based on. This is a trial of secrets where the contestants have to answer true or false questions. If you get it correct, you move on. If you get it incorrect, then a massive pillar falls on you and kills you during the trial. Bummer. Everyone has to answer, and you could basically trick people, but I don't feel like anyone really did. He didn't really help anyone, but I don't think he tricked anyone. What do you think?
They all kind of worked together. He like had like
Right?
that suspicious little like smile or smirk or whatever, but the ones that believed Lucy when she told them, they were good. So I think he did not help, and he didn't like overtly hurt, but he was just his dickish self. So.
I was just surprised because I feel like a lot of them are like, I have to win and I'm going to do whatever I can to win.
Yeah.
So I'm just surprised that no one took more advantage of that.
Yeah.
But we still had some death. 2 contestants died by the way of pillar after being flattened by a pancake.
I feel like that was the most gruesome death. The pillar just like, and that's it. Just like if you imagined it in your head. And that's where like everyone lost their
It's probably the
shit.
goriest death.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
I feel like the one that would last the longest to be the most painful is by lava.
I guess it depends on how fast you sink. But yeah, I would not want that. I guess if I find the person dying.
It's like Smeagol in the lava. The wondering.
If I'm the person dying, I guess I would choose smushed rather than lava. But anyways.
Probably. And if you had to go in this trial,
yeah,
I guess that's the way to go. Back at the manor, Blackwell is furious with Ophelia. Because I didn't tell you this, but you should already know it because you've read this book, right? But Ophelia allowed Sinclair to kiss her, and not only that, there was a little touchy-touchy.
I know.
Touchy.
Okay, so I was really confused about why this happened because it doesn't really seem to like further the plot. Like she's not really trying to make him jealous. If anything, she's trying to prove to herself that like that Blackwell doesn't mean anything to her. Like it was just for fun, which obviously nobody believes. But the one thing I did think about was, so that happened with Sinclair, and then immediately after is the deceit trial, and her true or false is I kissed a devil. And so if she hadn't kissed Sinclair, that still could have been the true or false. And then we immediately, as the readers, would be like, wait, is Blackwell the devil? Which some of us already have considered, but like, I feel like that would give it away more. So I don't, obviously I have no idea what her intentions were, but that could be why she wrote that. Because I was a little bit like, hey, interesting.
I think you're right. I think it wasn't really necessarily needed for the plot, except for apparently both of them think jealousy is sexy.
That's true.
Okay. I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I kind of like it when I read.
But besides that, I could totally see why Sinclair did it.
Oh, yeah. That's obvious.
I mean,
I was just wondering why
did bastard.
Yeah, why did Ophelia agree? But yeah, maybe it might have been for that deceit, or just she was trying to prove like.
I think she probably was trying to prove it to herself that he meant nothing.
Nothing.
Trial 7 is violence. Shout out to you, Fourth Wing. Finally, our girl immediately sends Blackwell, who gives her the lowdown on how this task works. It's really been bothering me that she has a person to tell her what's going to happen in each of these things. and she takes forever to summon him. So I'm really happy with this one that she's like, yeah, I'm going to start out with summoning him. So basically, he figures out what everyone else is going to do, and she decides to fight Cade to the death.
Oh yeah, it was Charlotte that she like let go, right? Was the
Yeah,
Charlotte the other?
Charlotte ends up, and I feel like Charlotte gave her like, we cool nod kind of thing at
Yeah,
the end
like she
before
knew
she
that
leaves out.
Cade would obviously pick whichever option he picked, and so she was like, "Well, I'll take this one. I don't want to fight with Charlotte." But I liked there was one thing she said about Charlotte that I really liked. She said in the book it says she really hoped Charlotte survived, if only because the world needed more people who minded their own damn business and weren't afraid to speak up when needed. And I was like, that is very true. Go girl. Yeah.
I
Anyway,
need to put that in a quote thing on our list
yes, the world does need
because
that.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Cade and Ophelia, they're fighting to the death, and it comes basically down to his physical strength over her magic. And of course, our girl wins and burns his face freaking off. With the shadow voice egging her on, by the way. But something interesting happens during this fight that's it confuses me, but we'll talk about it. He ends up grabbing the locket from around her neck and breaks it off of her. And when it's no longer touching her skin, her heart rate starts to basically falter, start slow down, like she's dying. So she realizes that, and she quickly gets it back and continues on the fight and wins. When she leaves the trial, her worst fear is put against her, and the shadow voice becomes something real that is no longer just in her head. She uses the magic that she summoned from Cade's death to rip through the voice's shadows. But the shadow figure has sunk its claws into her chest, and she starts calling out for Blackwell from desperation, and she passes out. When she wakes up, Blackwell is leaning over her, and he's like heartbroken. He's like looking at her all sad. And she realizes and is told by Blackwell that she was hallucinating, and the slashes made on her chest and her stomach were made by her clawing at herself. This is her greatest fear coming alive, that the shadow voice in her head has become real and that she ends up hurting herself because of it. They head back to her room, and her sister has now arrived. Genevieve and Ophelia catch up and share all the juicy gossip about what they've encountered and what Genevieve has learned about their family over the years. Not only that, but Genevieve is also a specter, and she can use her abilities that Ophelia just learned and has been using them her whole life. So she's kind of like a pro at it. They convince Genevieve to leave right before Trial 8. Trial 8 is fraud. The level begins, and we learn that Ophelia has to make a decision. There's two Genevieves in front of her acting like they're the real thing. She has to figure out who's real, who's not, and if she picks wrong, the real Genevieve will die. Like in real life, like she will die. She has this epiphany and realizes that Gabriel, in his games that he had just done, lost this round and must have caused the death of their mother. So she realizes this is real shit and she better get this correct. She guesses correctly, and both of the Genevieves in front of her are fake. She wins and she leaves. And then this bitch just says, I'm gonna go talk to the devil, because like she doesn't know what the rules of this whole entire thing is. Like she's been told multiple times she has to be the last person standing to get a conversation with the prince of devils, right?
Yeah, I was a little confused about that, but I wondered if she was just like, well, I can summon that door, so I don't need to wait. I'm just gonna do it now. And so it was just like her thinking she could like bend the rules or something.
Well, you're right. She can summon the door. She's done it once, and Sinclair is surprised to learn that she can do it. As she does it again, he uses the Prince of the Devil's name, which, again, I'm not going to say again because I suck at it, so you're welcome to.
Celemistress.
And of
Yes.
course, the freaking devil, as she walks into this room, is Blackwell, which, yes. So she enters in, she calls out, Blackwell shows up, and she describes his voice as a deep velvet, which I like, and calls her Angel again. He reintroduces himself as Salem. Then we get a flashback chapter. We learn that 500 years ago, we have Salem, and I don't know the woman's name. He calls her Angel, but I
I
don't know
think
if
that's
that's
her
really her
name.
name.
I think that
You
is her
think
name.
so?
Yeah, that's how I took
But
it, was that
she
her
but
name
he
was Angel.
uses but he uses Angel for
Ophelia.
Ophelia as a pet name?
Yeah, he doesn't remember Angel. So when he calls Ophelia Angel, I think it's his essence or spirit realizes that this girl is his angel, like that they're connected. So that's why he nicknames her Angel. But I think it really was his original angel's name.
We learned that they were in love, and he had been basically away from hell for a year living with her. The king has stolen her, tortured her, and figured out that his quote real name is Blackwell. This gives him power over Salem, knowing his name. The king right up just pulls Angel's heart out of her chest and kills her. Salem's devastated, and not only does he have to deal with the loss of his love, but he also is going to be put into Phantasma. But the king makes a deal saying that if you're able to find the heart and the key, he will be set free, and every single soul who knows the prince's true name will forget it. So the king can no longer have control over the prince. Also, side note, the cat's there, Poe's there, and apparently is the king's like spy, which I find that's not fair. But also, it's a cat. You can't really trust a cat.
Yeah, well, and
No,
Poe chooses right at the end. He stays. He's like, "Psst, I don't need to go back to the king."
debatable. Debatable.
You don't think
We'll talk
that's
about
true?
that.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
No, I think we're gonna have some drama there. Okay, so Angel's soul will be reborn in 500 years' time. And they decide to put the prince's power into the heart locket and give it to someone that's in their dungeon
I think
and
that
have.
it wasn't the power. They like literally put her heart in it.
Okay, see, that's what I thought the first time, but then
I
it didn't
mean,
make sense to me.
some kind of magic that is Angel's essence and heart, and so they put it into the locket. And then for whatever reason they chose the Grimm family to be the ones to pass it on. I don't think we really know how that's connected yet. Then for some reason, Ophelia is the one who is really I like kind of see her as the next embodiment of Angel. So then that's when it is actually her heart. I don't know. It is a little
She's a
confusing, but
reincarnation
yeah,
of, but if her soul
reincarnation.
was in the, if her soul was in the locket,
Hmm.
she didn't receive that locket until her mom died.
That's a good point. Like what, where was her heart
And
before?
then if she got it then we would see a totally different, like Genevieve would see a totally different personality and everything come out if her soul was like put into this other person's body. I'm
Well, she could
confused
still
about
be,
this.
yeah, she could still be the reincarnation of Angel. And then, and so like that is truly who Ophelia is, the reincarnation of Angel. And then the locket, maybe it is the magic in his memories, like whatever will unlock his memories. Once he realizes that he loves this girl, that is the reincarnation of his original love, then he'll get his memories back. And that's what's in the locket. And the magic is what makes her heart slow down and stop. It's possible. That could work.
I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm still confused about it. But we'll see. So we're done with the flashback and we go back to the present day. And the reason why I still think it's his power is because of this next part. Ophelia is confused on what's going on, and Blackwell has a sad smile on his lips. He tells her that he cannot grant her a devil's favor because she entered this level without having met the requirements to be the last person alive in Phantasma. I just said that. Be smart, woman. She confesses that she had planned to use her favor to ask the prince to find the heart and key to set Blackwell free. Well, this just gives him all the feels. He's like, I can't believe he would do that. That is so Kai. He's surrounded by other devils who are jerks. He's his true self now, with all of his memories, but apparently still it's been 500 years and he doesn't remember his love. because that was the king's whole purpose of waiting that amount of time to where he would forget his love. She figures out the riddle and that the heart and the key are probably the same thing, and it's her enchanted necklace this whole entire time. She takes out the necklace and hands it to him and confesses her love, which he tries to get her not to do because he doesn't want her to be cursed. Because of this, Phantasma starts to hit her with a curse. But since Salem now has the key and he starts to regain his full powers from the key, because the locket opens up and like it's all bright and now he's got powers again. He regains his full powers and he is untethered from Phantasma. Ophelia starts to die without the necklace because being cursed isn't enough. And in desperation, he says that he can return a working heart to her as a payment for setting him free. That's the least you can do, my guy. She agrees to the heart as payment as her life is saved, but she will be cursed. He explains that he can break the curse, but since Phantasma was supplying him with power and it is now falling apart, he needs a new power source, her soul. If she does this, she will be tied to him forever and will live in an immortal life as long as he lives. Honestly, this doesn't sound like a bad deal. You're living forever with your love,
Yeah.
but we'll see. She obviously takes his deal, and we'll see that in the epilogue with Ophelia, Salem, Poe, and Genevieve all living together in the house. The group doesn't know what's happening. This is why I say that he cannot remember his love, because apparently they have been doing research about the locket handed down to them and trying to figure out how their family had come to have it. Salem has used his power to convince the bank that they have paid off the house and they have more money than they actually do. This is why you should have a boyfriend who is a demon, because he can help you out financially. And
Devil.
end scene. We're done.
He's a devil.
Devil, yes. The
Again.
son of the devil.
He is the son of the king of the devils.
He's the son of the king of the devils. He is the prince of the devils.
Okay. Yeah. If you want a good boyfriend that can be your like sugar daddy, prince of the devils, good choice. Bottom line.
Sure.
Okay.
So what'd you think?
I want to go back to the him getting his powers thing from the locket, because I thought it was him getting his memories back, not his power, and that somehow getting his memories back unlocked his power, which could be basically the same thing. Maybe, you know, it's a little like nod to knowledge is power, memories are power. I don't know. But I was thinking of it as his memories. So that's why I still thought it was like actually her soul or heart. But I'm not so sure now that we've talked about it.
I think what I'm saying is correct. Because he doesn't know where the locket came from and what significance her family is. She doesn't act like she's been told anything about it.
Okay,
you know?
So I still feel like it is his memories. But you're right. He never knew the part about his love's heart being saved or soul in that locket. We don't know the exact details of that magic. That's not explained to us in the book of how they did it. So Salem never knew that happened. But the end, when he still doesn't act like he knows what they're talking about, like maybe it's because he really doesn't. Like he didn't know that that's what his dad did, and he doesn't understand the significance. We as the reader understand the significance of the heart locket being something to do with Angel, and he never knew, so he just doesn't know that.
No, that makes sense.
But it also obviously like him remembering who he is, because like at first when he makes the deal with Ophelia, he doesn't know that he is the prince of the devils, because I was like, I had to read that part intentionally the second time I listened to the book, because I was like, did he know when he made the deal? Because she says, so also in the prologue she says, you tricked me, and then that comes back. The prologue is this scene where she finds out that Blackwell is the prince of the devils. So she says, you tricked me. And so I was like, well, did he though? And he didn't really, because he did not remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah, he didn't remember that's who he was. So I'm almost wondering if he had those powers all along and he just didn't remember who he was. He thought it was this phantom named Blackwell. So I don't know for sure. And then this whole series is going to be 4 books long. We don't know who they're all going to be about. So it's possible that we might get the answer in another book.
Yeah,
like
we'll learn more.
More information. Yeah.
We'll see.
That was one of the questions I still had at the end, was about like that whole scene. I thought it was great. I actually went in with medium expectations just because we have been burned by book talk before, and it wasn't one that I'd heard like a lot about. It wasn't ACOTAR or Fourth Wing. I had medium expectations, and then I read it and I like wound up loving it, and so I gave it 5 stars. So my rating was 5 stars. It immediately had my attention with the prologue, and then even with the first chapter, I feel like I was already hooked. Like they talk about the hook, and you should do it soon. So I feel like by the first chapter when she's fighting her mom dead on the floor and trying to take her power, I was hooked. So that I gave it 5 stars. What were your thoughts? What did you give it?
I loved it. I thought it was great. It kept my attention. It had, I don't feel like we've read a lot of books that involve ghosts. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that kind of world. It was a more modern kind of world, but we'll get into the world stuff here in a little bit. But I don't know. I rated it 5 stars. I liked it.
Great. And
I
then
loved the Draco Malfoy that she made. Draco Malfoy that she made in my head. So
well, it's perfect with your Hermione love. You love Hermione. So I've just not experienced that fan fiction yet. But I know it's out there. And then spice wise, I feel like so we'll give it a spice rating. I feel like it had a good amount of sexual attention and sex scenes in it without it being like, oh my gosh, they're having sex again. I never felt like that. I liked all of the sex scenes. I would give it a 3 because it's not like the spiciest book I've ever read, but it had enough that I was like, I don't want to use the word satisfied because that's just weird. But like I appreciated
were
the
you satisfied?
maybe I was. I appreciate the plot to sex scene ratio.
Yeah, I agree. I would do like 3 chili spices for it. I think that's pretty fair. I tell you one thing that drove me insane, but this is just a me thing. It drives me insane when you get the on again, off again, on again, off again thing. She's constantly like, we can't do that ever again. And then immediately she's turning around and doing it again. Like, girl, choose your side. Hold down the fort. If you want to have him, have him. If he's agreeable, you're agreeable, have him. But Lord, quit back and forth. But I know it keeps me
That's
coming
the
back.
thing in
So
these books, we gotta the will
yeah.
they won't they. We have to have a little bit of it.
Yeah. Very nice.
Okay.
All right, cool. Our next segment is the Suriel's Tea Time. This is when we talk about our favorite characters, quotes, and themes. I'm going to start off easy, okay? With the least amount of stuff I have to say about people. I really liked Genevieve, which is a good thing the next book is about her. Even though I don't like switching my main character between books. But I really liked her. I liked her sass. She had quality sass. One of my favorite quotes I'm going to read to you because it's just too great not to. All right, ready?
Okay.
Who in the unholy fuck is knocking on people's doors this early in the morning? Our mother is no longer here to take appointments. If you have a dead relative, you're just going to have to suffer like the rest of us. So funny.
That is a good one. I do like that one.
Unholy fuck. Oh, that whole entire part is so funny.
Yeah, she's good. I liked her in the first book. My favorite character is Salem Blackwell, and he reminds me of my favorite book boyfriend. I think if we had had more time to flesh out his character in more books, then he could contend for the top spot, depending on like the stakes of the world and that kind of stuff. Just because he is cocky and arrogant, and I know, like, I don't know, I just like that. He gives her a lot of crap. I love that.
Mhm.
And I just really enjoyed like all the teasing he did of her, like driving her nuts. Loved that. And then my favorite quotes came from him. One of them came from chapter 35, page 289, after she has been like trapped in that dancing scene by Sinclair. And she was like, why didn't you come? I called you and you didn't come. And like, that was really sad to me. So then he said, I need you to know if I had heard you, there would have been nothing that could have stopped me from getting to you. Hell, nothing did stop me from getting to you. I went looking for you because I got the strangest feeling that something was wrong. I had every intention of respecting your request for space until then. I was scared, she whispered. When I realized he had trapped me, I called and called for you, and you didn't show up, and he leaned his forehead against hers and said, I'm sorry, Angel. So I really liked when he said that. And then I also liked same chapter 35, when she's like talking about how she feels like a bad person and about thinking bad thoughts. And he says, that's not how things work, Angel. Life is not measured in good or bad thoughts. It's how you treat the world around you despite them. All the people who only do good deeds because of what they might gain in the afterlife are no better than those who indulge in a little sin every once in a while. And I thought that was very true to real life because, it is what you do in this world that matters, not what you've been thinking, because we'll get that into that with the themes, but you can have intrusive thoughts. They do not come from your personality. They're just intrusive. And if you've never experienced them, then you probably aren't going to realize that. But that's one of the things that I feel like Kaylie tried to do in the book was to give people a little bit of insight into OCD and intrusive thoughts. And so just because she had bad thoughts or just because somebody has bad thoughts doesn't make them a bad person. It is what they do with their life and with their actions that count. So that's all I have to say about Blackwell. So now what do you got?
I really liked him for all the reasons you just said. I like that he can banter, but then he's also got this really soft side. He's got some fantastic quotes that are just swoon worthy. I love a good girl. So cliche, but
there were
I just
so
love
many
it.
good girl moments. I was tracking them actually, and I think I actually wrote them down all the times we heard good girl because I was like, oh, there's a good girl moment. And actually, I think there was even a good girl moment right at the very beginning. So when they have their meet cute and he tells her like
Yes.
the heart of the key, and then she starts to leave and he says, good girl. I was like, good girl. I actually, at
I
first,
love it.
when like all these books started using good girl, I was like, I don't know if I like that, but now I like
No, I love it. It's great.
it.
It's fantastic. Another thing that I really like is how supportive he is about like what you were talking about, intrusive thoughts, which I do want to talk about that. I want to talk about what this shadow voice is in her head, but I like that he's very accepting of it
Mhm.
and doesn't like accuse her of being evil or something like that because of what the shadow voice is telling her, but he gets concerned, as he should, when she lets the voice diminish her or she ends up hurting herself because of the voice.
Yes.
So I like that.
Yeah. I feel like this is kind of an easy question in this book, but like, who was your least favorite character?
Fucking Cade.
Fucking Cade. Yeah, mine too. Obviously. Like, who else is even in the running? Like, even Sinclair, like, at least you can kind of understand why he's the way he is. But Cade's
Yeah.
just like, nah, you're just out for yourself and he just sucks.
I liked Jasper, one of the
Yeah, I
other
like Jasper too.
demons.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't bad. So it was really just Cade.
He's the
Who,
worst of the
yeah,
worst.
the worst. Did you like Ophelia as a female main character?
She's not my favorite
Yeah.
female main character, but I did like her. I I thought she was very interesting.
Mhm.
She does have a couple of good one-liners. My favorite being, I will quote this for you. I don't know what to tell you if you don't think being distracted by a giant abyss of lava isn't a reasonable excuse to make a couple of mistakes. Yes, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
So I like that part. But yeah, I liked her. I liked her pretty well. I think it's really interesting, again, I'm still think that her backstory is kind of a mystery a little bit for me on whether she actually, how her soul works, where it came from, if she's actually a different person or what.
Yeah.
And then with having the shadow voice in her head. So you think the shadow voice is intrusive thoughts or for OCD?
I do. I think that's one of the prominent themes in the book is mental health. It really
Mm-hmm.
felt like something Kaylee wanted to and some attention to because it's not something obviously that a lot of people would know about or have information about if they don't have it themselves or they don't have a loved one or if they're not a nurse, etc. Did you read the letter about OCD at the end?
I did not. My Kindle skips over those things. I don't know why. Like I
So it
didn't
just
get to
like it's
see the hierarchy. Yeah, I didn't see the hierarchy thing until the very end either. Like
well,
it skips over things. I need to work on that. But was going through 3 different theories when I first saw the thing about the shadow voice. My first assumption was actually schizophrenia. I thought she had a voice telling her, she was having hallucinations and stuff like that, and it was a schizophrenic kind of thing. And then it went to a little bit of like the Shepherd King kind of thing. If you know, you know. But like maybe the king put like a voice in her head is a punishment as she's been reborn for ruining his son's life, or I don't know how he would think about it. But that. And then I said the OCD and that it just manifests in a way like that.
Yeah. So you were saying that you thought maybe like Salem's dad, the king of devils, put these intrusive thoughts in her head, or the shadow voice in her head, as a punishment for Angel being the reason that his son like love over him. That's what you were thinking. Okay. Which,
It's
I
one of
mean,
my
I feel like
theories,
that's
yeah.
an interesting theory. And I don't know if she will tie that in at all or not in a different book. It's possible. But I do know for a fact that the voice in her head, the shadow voice, is supposed to be a manifestation of obsessive compulsive disorder, just from reading that letter. I was really impressed that she put the letter at the end of the book, because these books that we read, like the fantasy books and other books, can touch on these big subjects like mental health or self-acceptance or things like that. And then, we've had human trafficking be one. And I really appreciate that she acknowledged it. That she was like, I put this in here and this is why. And it was because of her own experience with OCD. And so that was the very moment where she got real. And I felt like she did such a good job of making the intrusive thoughts intrusive, that like when I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm having these thoughts too, like the embarrassing. I was like, oh my gosh, I am embarrassed. It just felt really real to me.
And
Well,
like when she first got to the manor and she found the secret hallway and the voice in her head was telling her, you better run because it's going to get you. That happens to me all the time.
oh my gosh,
Like my
same.
intrusive thought is like, you better look behind you because something's about to get you. Or like, you better turn on that light. Or you better run up the stairs real quick. Happens to me
Yes.
all the time.
Yes. As someone who's had intrusive thoughts, they make no rhyme or reason. They're just there.
Yeah. And they can be very debilitating.
So I thought that was important. I liked that she highlighted it so much. And then I was also going to say
Is
about
there,
Ophelia is that I had seen some criticism that she didn't really like make friends with the other girls or like try to help them out. But I just thought she's socially awkward. I mean, she grew up with her mom teaching her how to do magic. She didn't go outside the house and have social interactions. All she had was her sister and her mom. So I don't think everyone understands like the socially awkward component either. And I think, she was like just in the competition to save her sister. So she was kind of just looking out for that, her main motivator. But I think part of the fact that she didn't like relate to the other contestants as much is just because she never had to do that before.
yeah, I completely agree. I also just think something in the back of her head could be telling her the majority of people in this competition are going to die.
Yeah.
And she would be hurt by making connections.
Protecting her heart.
Yeah.
True.
I just really appreciate that we keep reading these books that are highlighting mental health issues, and consent was a big thing in this too. Even if a freaking demon and devil can comply with consent, I feel like the modern male or female can also, comply with it.
Yes,
So
that was
I'm liking that part.
another one of the themes that I really liked was this theme of consent, and how, like you said, even Sinclair, when he's gonna go kiss her and finger her, is like, if anytime you want to stop, I'll stop. And then when she does want to stop, he like teleports himself to the other side of the room. Yeah,
Immediate.
get over there. No. But
Yeah.
so I like that. And then every time Blackwell, he was like, tell me you want this. If you want to stop, say stop, and we'll stop. It was very evident that that they both consented to this.
Well, that. Plus, when she felt Sinclair watching them in the hallway and her body language
I wrote
changed,
that down.
he
Mm-hmm.
noticed and
Yes.
immediately stopped. She
Yeah.
didn't have to say anything.
Nope.
He noticed and immediately stopped and checked in with her.
Right. I wrote that down too. It was like
Snaps to you, sir.
he
Snaps.
noticed her body language change and he immediately stopped and was like, okay, what's up? I cannot love this enough.
There's two other characters I want to talk about. Just real quick. I told you before, I don't trust that cat.
Oh, that's right. You don't trust Poe.
I don't trust Paul. It's like, yeah, he's probably bonded with this prince for 500 years, but the cat in the flashback, the cat's told, after every round of Phantasma to go back to the king and tell him an update. So he still has ties to the king. And now he's buddying up with Salem or Blackwell, whatever you want to call him at this point. And now he's living with them. So are you really there because you have an attachment to him? Or are you still keeping tabs for the king on what's happening? I don't
Yeah.
trust him. He's
I
a cat.
hadn't I
I
hadn't
am a
thought of
cat.
that.
I don't
You
trust
know,
him.
you're like they're sketchy.
Yeah, they're very sketchy.
So I didn't think about that, but that's a good point because you're right. It did say you're supposed to check in after every round, and I totally, just like forgotten about that at the end. So presumably if he has been doing that, then he just checked in with him a week ago, and so he probably could still be feeding him information. So that's definitely a good thought.
I think that's what's happening. Okay, what's your theory about Lucy? What's
About
up
what
with
she
she
is.
has like this metallic stuff that was on her that Ophelia clocked. She had healed fast after
Yeah,
the things of death going
right.
at her. Like, what do you think happening there?
I don't know exactly because I even looked at the paranormal beings guide in the front of the book and I was trying to match her to one and I couldn't decide what she is and I still don't know. So she left that open so maybe she could go to that in a different story maybe, but I do not know what Lucy is. What did you have? What did you think?
No, man. I wasn't sure if she was another supernatural being in that hierarchy thing, or if she was given some kind of power or immunity from one of the demons by making a deal or something. I wasn't sure. I don't know. I think it should come back though. If there's 4 more books, I think it's gonna come up at some point.
Not 4 more, but 4 total, at least that have been
4 totals, yes.
announced. And like we don't know the titles, but there's been 4 announced. Not that they couldn't do more. So my favorite spicy moment is the one where they're having sex and it starts raining blood from that haunt. And then he's like, okay, I can take care of this. She's like, no, don't stop. Like, let's just keep going. And she just chases her orgasm. And I'm like, I love that for you. So that was my
Right?
favorite spicy moment. Thought it was a very visual thing.
Yeah, he was like, let me get up and take care of that. She's like, bitch, you better not move.
Yeah. Like, I'm almost there.
Don't you
You better
move.
finish. Did you have a
Yeah, I liked
favorite
that part.
spicy moment?
That was probably one of my favorites. Anything that said good girl. I just like it. And that
And there were plenty
I
of
don't have
those.
anything else besides that.
Next, we'll be going over World Building Wonders, where we will break down the worlds that the authors created so that they're easier to understand. For Phantasma, the world is very limited at this point. Just the New Orleans part of the city that they reside in, Grim Manor, and Phantasma. So the majority of the book happens in Phantasma. And she has some FAQs on her website, on Kaylie Smith's website. And one of the questions was, what time period is this set in? And she said it's an alternate fantasy world of our world. So it doesn't have a time period that lines up with our time periods. So I felt that's important to note because it is not our actual world this is happening inside. It is an alternate fantasy world. So if there's anything that you're like, oh, well, that wouldn't have happened, then no, it's a different world. So anything is possible.
I like that it's a different world. But as I was reading it, like in the very beginning, I was trying to picture based off the attire. We have beginning of automobiles, the lack of electricity.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, it's the Victorian era. That's what
And
it is in my head.
she also says that in that FAQ is that she said the time period that she researched for the book was 1906 to, I don't know, whatever. She did call it
so I was.
You were right. I think she called it Victorian Gothic.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
good job, Anna. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I don't know people's history, literature, whatever classes, but the 9 levels of hell originally came from Dante's Inferno, where Dante Alighieri wrote a book called Dante's Inferno about the 9 levels of hell. And so that is the original, I'm assuming, the original inspiration for this kind of world. And so Dante's levels are almost the same as hers. They're limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy, violence, fraud, and treachery. Whereas in Phantasma, they're limbo, lust, greed, gluttony, wrath, deceit, violence, fraud, and treachery. So the deceit was like the main difference. But I just thought this world was really unique. We've had a lot of books about like trials or games that they have to overcome for whatever reason. And so that's similar in that way. But I thought using like the 9 levels of hell was very unique and just kind of like a callback to that classic piece of literature, which I really liked. And then just like all the different games. My favorite trial, I think you said yours, mine was the one with the lava, but I really liked that. It just seemed very visual to me, just imagining the balancing of scales and then the lava pit at the bottom. But that was the main thing about the world building that, again, this is a smaller world for now, that I wanted to talk about was the levels of hell.
I enjoyed the world building. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting that they mentioned the necromancers have a longer than average lifespan than humans that aren't magically inclined, I guess.
Yeah.
I also think those people, like necromancers and stuff like that, like her mother is supposed to be in one of the levels of hell. That's where they automatically go when they die,
Mhm.
which I thought was kind of weird and not fair. But I'm also, you kind of have to get rid of the idea of like, I grew up in Tennessee in a Christian background. So the idea of what hell and heaven are and kind of like how you get into those are a little bit different in this kind of world. It's not basically about your sins. It's about, I don't know, kind of like a balancing act. Like, not necessarily all good people go to heaven and not all bad people go to hell. One of the quotes says, human morality was much more fickle.
Yeah, very true.
So, next up, we're going to play a little game. We are calling this segment War Games because we like Fourth Wing and we're going to give a nod to it. We're basing this game off of trials. My plan is to make a list of all the ways we would have died in all these books we read and see how many ways we would die at the end of like a season of our podcast. So each of us have 5 true or false questions that we're going to alternate. The other person that's not asking the question will answer it first, and we're going to see if that person gets it right.
Yes.
You
And
want to start?
just, yeah, I could start. Just as an aside, if we play a game that doesn't relate to the book, we will have a separate spoiler warning so that you could cut out at this
Mm-hmm.
point if you needed to. This one is still just about Phantasma, so no new spoiler warning for this. So my first question is, the first time Ophelia sees Blackwell, she described his eyes as emerald. True or false?
Agreeing. I'm going to say true. Do I fail?
It's it's false. I
Okay,
noticed
so a
just
pillar
because
comes down in my head.
dead. Okay.
Dang.
Next.
Okay, I have a description one as well. So the hellhounds are described as having leathery, burnt skin as black as the pits of hell, with the teeth resembling the whiteness of snow. True or false?
That's a good one. I'm gonna say true,
It's false.
of
This
course.
stuck out in my head because I don't think I've ever heard or seen in Hollywood's depiction of hellhounds. It's actually described that the hellhounds are having leathery white as snow skin,
Huh.
which is
Yeah.
weird, and black teeth, which is, it just stuck out in my mind. But that
Okay,
was
that
so
actually
weird.
is interesting. And again, my brain just went straight to Black Hellhound. So I obviously need to pay more attention
Right?
to the details. But yeah, so that
Well,
actually that is really interesting. I like that visual. Good. So my next one is the last place Phantasma was before New Orleans was Boston. True or false?
false. It's New
Nice.
York.
It was New York. So maybe that one was easy, but we each died
Yes.
once in this trial.
Okay, next one is Blackwell's favorite book in Phantasma's library is about the love between a demon and an angel.
I'm gonna say false.
You're so right. It's
Oh,
not.
good. I knew he had a
That
favorite
was
book.
Lucy's favorite book. It's Lucy's
Ah,
book that she was reading, and he doesn't come out and say it, but he describes it as basically Frankenstein was his favorite book.
oh, that's right. And then Ophelia's like, oh, I've like kind of I've heard of that.
I
And then we're
read
all
that,
like,
yeah.
ha. Frankenstein. Yes, I do remember noting that, so I'm glad I got it right. Okay, my next one is the bank that is trying to repossess Grim Manor is New Orleans City Bank. True or false?
True.
Yeah, man, you're better at this than me.
No, I'm not. Aren't we tied? Pretty sure we're tied. We both died once. Here's an easy one. Ophelia isn't able to start looking for her sister until after she completes level 7.
True.
Correct.
Yay. Well, thanks for that. Okay, in the beginning, Ophelia says Salem's voice is as smooth as whiskey. True or false?
I think it's bourbon. I'm
So
gonna say
true or
false.
false?
Bourbon.
Yeah, it was bourbon.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked that. Smooth as bourbon.
Yeah, that was good. I
Yeah,
like it. And then when he goes to his little reading library, he's always drinking bourbon. And
right.
he smells like vanilla. Vanilla
And
too, I think.
tobacco. I was like, is he a smoker?
Tobacco. Yes.
Does he
I think
like?
it's just giving one of those like vibes.
I can kind of smell that. All of our book boyfriends have a smell. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't think I would notice. Okay, I've actually tried this with Tyler, my husband, to try to pick out some notes that he smells like. And I have not been successful. I know how he smells, but I can't but I'm not that way with wine. Like I know some people can be like, this is how I like taste this wine, and I don't do that. So,
And I don't either. I don't know.
okay.
Trial 4 was the trial where she's stuck in a golden cage above the lake of lava. Your favorite trial. Which one was it?
False.
Trial 4, right? No, yes, you were
It's
correct.
trial
It was trial
3.
3. I tried to get you.
You almost got me.
I failed.
Okay. Ophelia and Genevieve buried their mother in a purple dress. True or false?
I'm saying false. They wanted to because it made her look gaunt, what they chose.
It
Is
was
that correct?
false, and I looked at it weird before I read it because I was like, I should have written down what color her dress was, but I didn't. So now I'm not. Now I don't remember. So I'm gonna have to go back and look. If anyone remembers, put it in the comments or DM me.
Please do. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, last one for me. Genevieve had sex with a guy on the back of a parade float just so she can get back at the guy's best friend who stood her up.
True.
Hell yeah, it was.
Yeah. Is that why? That's really why you like Genevieve.
Yeah, she's just funny.
Yes, she is.
I like
Okay.
it.
Okay, so that was our war game for this time. How many times, what was our score at the end? Because I should have been like writing it down.
I know, I thought to myself. I think we only did once each.
I think so too. So we're even so far, and we've only died once.
Our next episode will be covering Enchantra, the second book in Kaylie Smith's Wicked Game series. So please listen in and come back to enjoy that beautifulness.
Yes, so thank you so much for listening. We are a baby podcast, so it would be helpful if you would rate and review us on your podcast listening platform. You can also follow us on social media, a podcast of fantasy and romance on Instagram and YouTube, and a pod of fantasy and romance on TikTok. It's been fantastical. We'll see you next time.